back. A scheme aimed at enhancing cooperation between the public and private healthcare sectors will be launched later this year. Patients with high blood pressure can choose to switch from public to private doctors at no extra cost. Jenny Lam reports.
Patients with long-term illnesses often have to wait a long time between appointments at government clinics because the public healthcare system is just too busy. As soon as July, some of these patients can switch to private doctors instead under the General Outpatient Clinic Public-Private Partnership Program. The scheme will first be introduced in Kwun Tong, Wong Tai Sin and Tuen Mun, and about 360 private doctors have agreed to join. They will initially target patients with high blood pressure who are in a stable condition. They must have visited a government clinic for at least 1 year. There are an estimated 60,000 such patients. The hospital authority will invite them to take part in the program. They will get a subsidy of about $225 for every consultation at a private clinic for up to 10 visits a year. That means they only have to pay $45 each out of their own pockets, the same as they would pay at publicly funded clinics. The private doctors can also prescribe them with up to 3 days of medication for minor ailments such as colds and flu infections. Director of Cluster Services at the Hospital Authority, Alan Chung, says he understands that patients might be reluctant to join the scheme, which is why they won't be asked to pay any more than at a public clinic. Yin Xiu Lam of a patients' rights group welcomed the scheme. He says patients can choose to see doctors who are closer to home without having to waste time and money on transportation. The hospital authority will assess how effective the scheme might be in relieving the pressure on the public healthcare sector in a year's time and may consider expanding it to other districts. Jenny Lam, TVB News.
Starting next month, the MTR will increase the frequency of trains by more than 300 trips a week on various rail lines. A new queuing system will also be introduced at crowded stations. Stephanie Choi has more details.
Good news for those of us who are always stuck in situations like this. Beginning on April 7th, the MTR will be adding 329 train trips per week to its services on the Island Line, Kwun Tong Line, Chuen Wan Line and East Rail Line. This means you will only need to wait for as little as 2 minutes for the next train. But these additional services will only be available during the evening peak hours and post-evening peak hours on weekdays.
Due to constraints imposed by our signaling systems, we cannot provide additional morning peak services on our busiest lines like the Kwun Tong Line and Chuen Wan Line.
Additional evening services will also be available on the East Rail Line, Chuen Wan Line and Kwun Tong Line on weekends. At the end of August, 8 additional daily trips will also be introduced on the West Rail Line on Friday and Saturday evenings. On April 28, the new queuing system will be introduced here on Platform 2 at Kowloon Tong Station along the Kwun Tong Line. Passengers will queue up to my left and those on board will alight to my right. The MTR Corporation believes this queuing system would ensure a smoother flow of passengers. But the system won't be suitable for all stations.
The critical success factor for the new queuing system is when you have platforms that regularly have a lot of people alighting and a lot of people boarding.
The MTR will provide additional station assistance to cope with these changes. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
Celebrated fashion designer Loren Scott, the longtime girlfriend of rock and roll legend Mick Jagger, was found dead in her Manhattan apartment on Monday. As Alan Bookney reports, police are terming her death a suicide.
Loren Scott, whose elegant designs and lush fabrics were favored by the likes of Madonna, Nicole Kidman and Michelle Obama, was a fixture on Mick Jagger's arm since she met the Rolling Stones frontman in 2001. At 1.9 meters tall, the striking designer towered over her famous boyfriend at red carpet events. She was found dead in her Manhattan apartment Monday morning. She was kneeling with a scarf wrapped around her neck. It had been tied to the handle of a French door. Police say no note was found, and there was no sign of foul play. They're treating the case as a suicide. The Rolling Stones are currently on tour in Australia. A spokesman for Mick Jagger said the singer was completely shocked and devastated by the news of her death. Loren Scott was adopted by Mormon parents and raised in Roy, Utah, a town of 10,000. She became interested in clothing as a teenager and chose fashion as a career path, becoming a model in Paris. In 2006, she founded her own self-named label of high-end clothing. Late last year, she went into a collaboration with Banana Republic on a line of more affordable clothes. Her spokesman requested privacy for her family and friends. Loren Scott did not disclose her age, but it's believed she was 49. Alan Buknia, TVB News.
All right, Chris, what do you have for us in sports today?
So, basketball to get us underway anyways, to the NBA, and the Brooklyn Nets defeated the Phoenix Suns to extend their home winning streak to 9 games. As Jameson Wong shows us, the Nets are getting hot at the right time.
According to a new survey, the number of Hong Kong residents who have at least $1 million in liquid assets reached a record high of 732,000 early this year. That is roughly 13% of the local population. Our Vicky Kung has more details.
The University of Hong Kong interviewed about 4,000 people over the phone between November 13th last year and mid-January this year. The survey, commissioned by a bank, found that the number of millionaires in Hong Kong went up by 22% in 2013. Totaling 732,000, they make up 13% of the local population. Wan Chai remains the district with the highest density of millionaires. About 1/3 of the residents there fall into this category.
It's not a sudden jump, so it's just a natural increase of the millionaires in Hong Kong. The overall market has become more wealthy compared in 10 years ago.
Among the new millionaires, most had cash deposits and stock, mutual fund or bond holdings that were worth between $1 million and $5 million. They mostly credited stocks as the main contributor to their increase in wealth. 77% of them also owned at least one housing unit. Taking their housing properties into consideration, the millionaires' average net asset value stood at $12 million, $1 million less than the year before. Despite their wealth, only 13% of the interviewees had plans to buy new housing units, and more than half of them expected a fall in property prices this year. The millionaires interviewed are mainly in their 40s and 50s. About 10% of them are considering emigrating to other countries in the next 5 years, with Australia and Canada being their most preferred destinations. Vicky Kong, TVB News.
And that's our news.
Good night.
Good evening. The weather was mainly cloudy with fog patches. And as tonight's situation chart shows, a maritime airstream persists over the coastal areas of Guangdong. Up to 5 p.m., temperatures range from 19.9 to 25 degrees, and the relative humidity was between 77 and 98%. Light to moderate east to southeasterly winds. The current temperature is now 22 degrees Celsius, with the relative humidity standing at 87%. So, Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? It will be cloudy tonight, warm with sunny periods during the day tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 21 and 26 degrees. It will be warm, humid, and foggy on Thursday, becoming significantly cooler on Friday. Tomorrow's air quality health index is forecast at low to moderate. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 7. And here's the latest global weather update. Rain in Shanghai, Shenzhen, Taipei, and Xiamen. Cloudy in Guangzhou and Chengdu. Cloudy in Beijing, Seoul, and Tokyo. Showers in Bangkok, sunny in Ho Chi Minh City, bright in Manila. Showers in Kuala Lumpur, rain in Jakarta. Sunny in New Delhi and Karachi. Rain in Cairo. Showers in Brisbane, thunderstorms in Sydney, sunny in Melbourne. Snow in Toronto. Cloudy in Vancouver, sunny in San Francisco and Los Angeles. Bright in London, cloudy in Paris, Amsterdam, and Frankfurt. And that's the weather. Have a lovely evening.